Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of our Rimworld Ice Sheet Survival series. Last time we left off after having constructed a small storage room inside of the mountain, and today we are going to expand in that same direction. As you can see here, I have drawn up some plans for the continuation of our mountain base. For the moment we will prioritize the room on the right, which we will turn into the bedroom, while the room on the left will be used as a dining room with a small freezer attached. For the moment though, like I said, building a nice bedroom for Cambiar is a bit more important. While Cambiar is sleeping, we then get another crashed escape pod, conveniently very close by, so we are going to have him bring Erica here back to the base, and just a few seconds later we then get the next event. Someone is being chased by tribespeople and begs for help from our colony. Now this will immediately earn us another colonist, but also bring another raid to our base. However, considering our food situation, both are things that we could very well need. So we're going to offer safety, and immediately Isolde here joins the colony. She now also prompts us to choose a name for our faction and for our community, and I admit I wasn't overly creative here. For the faction I simply chose the Completionists, and the colony will now be named Pete's Colony. Like I said, definitely no masterpieces here, and if you have better ideas then feel free to let me know in the comments. There are ways in the game to change this again to something else. Now, while Cambiar is rescuing our crashed survivor, Isolde is running back to the base. A few moments later then, the raid notification pops up as Isolde's attackers arrive. This time we have two tribespeople, one with a ranged and one with a melee weapon. However, I am moderately confident that we are going to win this fight. So we'll have Isolde grab the steel club here, because should one of them make it through our defenses, she will be the first one to engage. Now here they are. Cambiar is already waiting for the attackers with his auto pistol, so let's see how the fight goes. Well, if that wasn't the definition of quick and easy. One trap immediately kills the first attacker, the second one decides to flee, and just for the purpose of getting a bit more food we will have Isolde pursue here, although she probably won't be able to catch up. Alright, as expected the attacker escapes, so Isolde can now help a bit cleaning up the aftermath. By the way, Erica, the rescued colonist from the crashed escape pod, is slowly but steadily bleeding out in her sleeping spot. A few moments later then, Erica dies, while Isolde has already rearmed the steel deadfall trap and is currently busy organizing the dead bodies. Cambiar in the meantime has made some solid progress in his bedroom. Alright, here we are now. Cambiar is asleep and Isolde has hauled everything she can, and as you may have already been able to guess, I didn't really plan for her to stay with the colony long term. Her traits don't really fit us, primarily because she's not a cannibal, and I really only accepted to help her in order to get the raid. For that reason we will now strip Isolde of all of her clothing, and yeah, we are going to let her freeze outside here. And here we are. A while later, Isolde has died of hypothermia, and with that, agreeing to help her was at least successful in regards to stocking up on food. We now have 2 more dead bodies on the stockpile for Cambiar to consume, a few more clothing items to eventually sell to a trader, and so I would say things are not looking all that bad right now. We will now have Cambiar mine 1 more chunk of steel, and combined with the rest that we still have, this gives us enough steel to build 2 steel doors. One to lock off the bedroom and the other one to secure the entire mountain base structure. We can then also tell Cambiar to haul away all the stone chunks, although we slightly need to increase our stockpile for that. Alright, Cambiar is now almost done hauling, so we can queue up his next job. In order to improve the room quality here, we will have him smooth the stone floor. This will make the stone floor a bit more beautiful, and it also doesn't cost any materials. However, it does take significantly longer than, let's say, putting down a wooden floor. You can also see it here in the beauty bar. With every tile that is smooth, that bar rises by a few percentage points. And here we are, a 5x5 room inside of the mountain, completely smoothed and therefore a lot more desirable than Cambiar's current bedroom. Now, before we move the bed, we want Cambiar to mine 3 more blocks of steel, because in total we need 80 to make this bedroom a real bedroom. Now, there are 2 items in the game which increase the comfort of a bed and therefore also the quality of a bedroom. One is the dresser, the other one the end table. The dresser costs 50 steel, the end table 30, and we want to install them both. Both give a small 5% boost to the bed's comfort rating. For that to work, however, the end table needs to be placed right next to the bed, while the dresser can be as far as 6 tiles away. And while a single dresser or a single end table can increase the comfort rating of multiple beds, it does not work the other way around, so we cannot use multiple dressers or multiple end tables on the same bed, so in total the plus 10% to comfort are all we can get. And here you can see it, even though the steel dresser is of shoddy quality, it does give a plus 5% to comfort. However, the bonus is inactive as long as there is no bed in the room. Now, Cambiar needed a bit of sleep, but here we are now with the end table also constructed, and that means we can now reinstall the bed in Cambiar's first proper bedroom. Now, one thing that he does not have in this bedroom that he had in the previous one is heat, and this might become a bit of a problem with temperatures on the ice sheet getting lower and lower. However, Cambiar is already well protected against the cold, and even though he might get some slight hypothermia overnight, 1 or 2 hours researching next to the Steam Geyser will cure that very quickly. Our bed is now installed and has a comfort rating of 72%, 10% better than what it had previously. Now I also sent Cambiar to clean up the room, and as a result it is now dull, impoverished, average-sized, neutral and clean, while the previous bedroom is definitely worse with awful, impoverished, rather tight, ugly and clean. So Cambiar is slowly moving up in the Rimworld and can now also have his first night in the new bedroom, and the upgrades we made now give him the plus 6 very comfortable thought. A few seconds later then we have another crashed escape pod, and well, that is basically free food for Cambiar, so we'll gladly take it. Now, the crashed colonist sadly died on the way back, but that way we can now at least haul her immediately back to the stockpile. Now, one thing we also had in the last episode was a crashed meteorite. That left a large chunk of silver here on the map, and today we'll have Cambiar start mining that, as silver is the currency that is used here on the Rimworld, and should we have a trader pass by soon, this will definitely increase our options for trading. Alright, here we are. Cambiar is getting tired and therefore needs to return to the base, but he was able to mine 228 silver, and I think we still have about the same amount still left up there. Instead of going back though, the next day is primarily spent doing research, simply because it is getting pretty damn cold outside with over minus 50 degrees. Now another night has passed as we are now visited by a herd of Muffalos. Now Muffalos are, as the name already suggests, very similar to buffaloes, and they tend to appear quite frequently in the colder biomes. They are quite big, and that also results in a large amount of meat on them, more than double the amount actually than we would get from a human corpse. So I decided to go with the slightly more risky approach here, and I sent Cambiar out to hunt a Muffalo. Luckily, the herd had split into 2 groups at this point, with one of them passing very close by. Now, when doing this, there's always the risk of angering the entire herd and causing them to attack, but yeah, I decided to risk it anyway. Sometimes when you're out on the ice sheet, you simply have to gamble a bit. Now, as you can see, the herd did not seem to mind me attacking one of their own, even though with Muffalos having very high health, it took me quite a while. Now, why did I do this and go with the high-risk approach? Well, number 1, it's kind of a backup plan should we ever run out of human meat, and number 2, Muffalos also provide a good amount of leather, and we could use that for crafting, provided of course we eventually get the wood to build a butcher's table. As you can see here, in the end it all worked out, and once again our situation out here on the ice sheet has improved a tiny bit. The next morning then we are greeted by serious hypothermia, so it seems like despite Cambiar's warm clothing, it is still a bit too cold underneath the mountain for him. As a result, after a long but rather uneventful day of researching, we will now switch things up again and reinstall the bed back in its original place. Don't worry though, our bedroom building efforts were not completely for nothing, because once we have researched electricity, we will move Cambiar back inside. Speaking of research, we are progressing pretty nicely as it is now officially the first day of winter out here on the ice sheet, so expect a further drop in temperature soon. For the moment though, we have more pressing issues to attend to as we are being visited by another group of raiders. Well, group is actually not the right word here because it's only one single enemy with a short bow, and I think our defenses will be more than capable of taking her down. So once again Cambiar takes position, but let's see if the enemy actually makes it through the traps. Wonderful, as expected the attacker does not make it out of the trap corridor alive, and Cambiar is now free to rearm the traps and pick up the pieces. Alright, here we are, the traps are rearmed, the equipment is safely stored in the storage room, and Cambiar can get back to his research. A few hours later, while Cambiar is already fast asleep, we are once again messaged by a refugee who's begging for help, and once again, just like last time, we will offer our safety. This causes Ian here to join the colony, and a few moments later, her attackers also appear on the map. Once again, it's only two of them, and I think killing one will be enough to make the other one flee. And yes, that is the case. As attacker number 1 falls to the last deadfall trap, his companion decides it's time to leave again, and this time we will send Cambiar out to pursue. Maybe with his auto pistol he is a bit more successful in hunting the other attacker down. Alright, despite landing a few hits, it seems like our enemy is getting away alive, while for Ian, the person we rescued, the situation looks a tiny bit different. Ian has developed extreme hypothermia and is already showing the first signs of frostbite, so I think it's only a matter of time before we have another corpse to add to the arsenal. To speed up the process and also shorten her suffering, we will quickly strip her of her clothing, and then it doesn't take long for Ian to pass away with outside temperatures reaching minus 60 degrees. Surprisingly, Cambiar actually got a small positive thought from this. Apparently, in the few minutes they knew each other, him and Ian developed a bad enough relationship so that the game now classifies Ian as Cambiar's rival, as we can see it here with a small +2 my rival Ian died thought. Now, over the course of the night, we actually had outside temperatures of over minus 70 degrees Celsius, and so I once again had to close the doors to Cambiar's small shelter here, in order to keep at least some of the heat from the Steam Geyser inside. Then, after another long day of research, we finally reached the point I've been waiting for. Cambiar has successfully researched electricity. And this provides us now with a plethora of possibilities. However, before we start the next research project, we will have Cambiar deconstruct the ship chunk here. These two chunks dropped, I believe, in the last episode, and at that point we didn't really have a lot of use for them. Now, with electricity unlocked, things are a bit different, because in order to build electrical equipment we need components. And that, next to a bit of steel, is exactly what these ship chunks are good for. So here we are, 16 components are being hauled back to the base, and we'll also take care of the steel once Cambiar had a night full of sleep. Alright, here he is. Cambiar is no longer hungry and well rested again, as he is now carrying 60 steel back to the base. This will increase our reserves to 87, however, that is not quite enough for the next big project. As I mentioned, Cambiar's bedroom is in dire need of a bit more heat, and now that we have researched electricity, we can install a heater. However, obviously a heater won't work unless it gets power, and that power will come from a wind turbine. Wind turbine and heater will be connected with power conduits. I don't know exactly how many we'll need, so I just have Cambiar mine a bit more steel than necessary here. We may or may not also have to mine away a bit of the mountain and build another door there, so for that reason Cambiar is mining 5 blocks of steel here, even though for the turbine and the heater 3 or 4 would probably be enough. One last night of sleep then next to the Steam Geyser, but on the next day we are ready to build our very first electrical appliance, a wind turbine. And we want to make sure that the actual turbine is as close as possible to the room that we need the electricity in, that way we'll save materials when building the conduits. Alright, here we are. The turbine will now continually produce power as long as there's wind, and we can install the heater next. And we got really lucky here. Up in the top right corner the heater is still barely close enough to the turbine, so that we don't have to use conduits at all. Instead, because of the proximity, the heater will automatically connect to the turbine, which definitely saves us a lot of work and materials. Now with the heater installed we can set a target temperature, and normally you would set this somewhere between 15 and 20 degrees. However, we are going to set it at a smooth -25. And the reason for that are infestations. Infestations are very likely the biggest threat when building a mountain base, however they will never spawn in temperatures below -17 degrees. Putting the heater up to -25 will give us a bit of a threshold there. At the same time, the -25 degrees is still far enough away from Cambiar's minimum comfortable temperature of, I believe, -47 degrees, so that when the power goes out, which will happen with a wind turbine, it will take the room quite a while until it reaches a temperature that is uncomfortable for Cambiar. Now with the remaining steel I quickly built another deadfall trap here, you can never have enough of those, and I think it is now time to reinstall Cambiar's bed back in its designated bedroom. A bedroom, by the way, that has already reached its target temperature of -25 degrees. Now, this leaves us with only one more thing to do for this episode, and that is to choose our next research project. With electricity unlocked, we could go for solar panels, batteries or hydroponics next. However, I actually want to get to gun turrets as fast as possible, and the next project we need to research for that is microelectronics basics. However, as you can see here, we cannot research that until we have machining, which in itself is in turn locked behind smithing. And therefore Cambiar's next research project will be smithing for 1400 points, but compared to electricity's 3600, that should be a walk in the park. As Cambiar starts researching, we can also see the power go out for the first time. As the wind dies down, the turbine no longer produces electricity, and so the heater shuts itself off. On the lower right side you can see how long it takes the temperature to drop, which is definitely long enough to get a few more hours of sleep in safe temperatures before things either get too cold or, more likely, the power comes back on. Before Cambiar can get his first night of sleep in the now warmer bedroom, we now have cargo pods dropping nearby, and let's see what they have in store for us. Alright, nutriamine, a very important part of making drugs and medicine, also of decent value, so we want to send Cambiar out at least once to haul as much back to the base as he can. Alright, Cambiar is now hauling 65 units of nutriamine back to the base, leaving 13 out here in the open, which we could grab in another trip. For today's episode though, I think Cambiar has more than earned himself some rest. We have made big progress out here on the ice sheet, our food situation is looking decent at the moment, we have quite a bit of surplus equipment to sell, and most importantly, our tribesman has evolved and is now able to use electricity. So we will continue right here in the next episode. Until then, leave a thumbs up if you like this one. If you want to support the channel and haven't subscribed already, then go ahead and do that. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!